Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Malorn here, and I'm here with another great video for you guys today. So, today we have this is an interesting video. It actually doesn't have anything to do with the new updates. I do have some videos coming out in regard to the updates. However, I wanted to do something slightly different. I've never done a video like this before, and I figured it was about time. Now, just for, future reference and just kind of to point this out for now too. I don't edit my videos. My videos are not edited. I tried to edit a few in the past, and it felt fake to me. So I don't edit my videos. I don't put words on the screen or anything like that. That's just not my style. My videos are all the way through, and as much content as I can provide within each video, it's going to be there, every last drop of it. I don't edit anything out, I don't add anything in, nothing of that nature. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and continue with what this video is about. Today, this is not necessarily a top 10, but it is a list. Alright, and it's a pretty common thing among video games. You find that when you're within a community, you have different kinds of people, different kinds of players. There's different stereotypes, there's different personalities, characteristics that everyone kind of portrays. Maybe they're like that in real life, maybe they're not, who knows. But within any video game, you can always find these people. And if anyone's gone through YouTube lately, for just about any video game, you can find 30, 40 videos of this exact kind. However, when I did my search, I was only able to find maybe 3 or 4, and one of them was slightly more satirical than serious. So I'm going to be slightly more serious on this topic because I think it's actually interesting. I think it's always really fun to look at the different personalities within video games or within communities in general. It's fun to find out, the kind of people that are out there. I do want to point out, this is, kind of a header or a warning. Everything I say in this video, nothing I say in this video is meant as an insult to anyone. Alright? I'm not pointing out specific people in the community that I view as bad, or that I view as detrimental somehow. Alright, I'm just pointing out the pros and cons of each group of people. All of us have our pros and cons, whether you want to admit it or not. So, with that being said, the very first one is the Glitch Master. Now, the Glitch Master is that friend or that guy that your friend knows, and your friend always takes you to his castles because they're awesome. They're full of glitches, and you don't know how to do any of it, but you're going through these castles, and you're looking around, and everything is glitched, but it's glitched perfectly. Maybe they have a carpet glitch that goes all the way around the castle outside of the border so that you can take kind of like an outside tour of it. Or maybe they've got a teleporter that takes you to another platform somewhere farther outside the border of the castle, and there's a whole bunch of, a whole bunch more teleporters, and maybe those take you to other castles or anything of that kind. But these people are really good at glitching. They know how to work every corner of their castle, even the corners that you're not supposed to be able to access. They are amazing. Everyone considers them amazing because of their skill. Now, those are the pros. They're amazing. They obviously have some talent. That takes a lot of focus because I know from personal experience that when you do glitch work, a lot of times you mess up. You're going to mess up in the process, and you always have to go back and redo something, and by doing that, you run the risk of having to restart the entire thing if you pick up the wrong item, or you have to restart a lot more than what you previously expected to have to redo, and it can just take a lot of time. So I guess time is kind of the con on this. If you wanted to be a glitch master, you have to have a lot of time on your hands, and frankly, a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't have, 5, 6 hours to spend on some incredible piece of artwork, and you can call it that. It is artwork, the things that they can do. Um, Me personally, I can do some glitch work. I'm not like an expert at it, so I'm not really a glitch master, but where just building castles is concerned, I'm kind of a, I do a little bit of everything. I dabble. Alright, the next one is the collector. Now this is me. And this is something I can personally say, this describes me, you know. Anything in the game is open game. It's something that a collector might want. Alright? When a collector finishes one collection, that collector moves on to something else that they can collect. They collect pets, they collect wands, they collect reagents, they collect pet snacks, they collect monstrology characters, or maybe if they don't have enough space to put all their pets, now that the pet tome's a thing, that helps out with collectors, you know. They, instead of having to actually own the pet, they can just have it in their pet tome. I don't know if it gets deleted if you sell your pet or get rid of your pet, but that being said, that's how that can work. As far as fishing goes, you know, they collect fish, or maybe they just use their fishing tome as like a record of all the fish that they've caught, because there's not really, other than buying a bunch of aquariums, there's not really an easy way to store your collection when it comes to fish. So there's collectors for everything, and usually collectors tend to dabble. They don't just stick with one collection. They'll, you know, get a decent amount, they'll get a decent setup for one collection, and then they'll move on to the next. But, you know, all the while still focusing on the original one that they had started with. So, you know, they start with pets, and then they move on to wands, and then, you know, they have a decent collection of both of those now, so now they're going to move on and start collecting reagents and fish, and then now they have all of these things, they own all this stuff, and they don't actually use it, because the purpose of that collection is to own things, with no specific reason other than to own them, to feel satisfied. It's an accomplishment. It's a way of saying, hey, look what I did. And this one specifically, this characteristic tends to lead to the next one that I'm about to bring up, which is the bragger. Alright? The bragger is the guy who, anytime they do anything good, or make any kind of accomplishment, or buy anything with their own money, or maybe like those piles of gold. There's a housing item that's like the pile of gold, and there's 3 different ones specifically, but they cost, you know, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 gold. They're really, really expensive, and I don't think a lot of people are actually aware that they're a thing, but there's a vendor somewhere out there in the spiral that you can buy them from. I can't remember. You'll have to look that up on the wiki, but the bragger is the guy that, you know, that anytime they do something good, they have to tell you about it. And they don't just tell you, they tell their entire circle of friends. And if they meet a stranger while they're in a battle, you know, they'll brag about how good they are at something. Maybe they're really good at PvP, so they'll be talking to the person they just barely met because they're questing along in the world or something, and they come across this guy and they decide, okay, well, you know, we're on the same quest, so I'll join them, right? And they always like to talk about their accomplishments. That's almost always going to be the topic of conversation with these guys. Not only that, but they tend to be slightly self-centered. Alright, they like to talk about themselves, but listening to other people's accomplishments usually isn't easy for them. Looking at other people's accomplishments usually isn't easy for them either, because that runs the risk of them being jealous. Maybe the other person has some even more impressive accomplishments, and that makes them feel uneasy about their own self-worth. Now, those are the cons. I started with the cons on that one because I have to be honest, there's not a lot of pros here. When you brag about everything, that's just generally how you look to everyone around you. The pros of this, though, are that you're driven. You have something to go for, because I feel like the pro actually kind of feeds into the con here and vice versa. you have to feed your ego. So because you have to feed your ego, you go for those accomplishments, and because you're always trying to go for all these different accomplishments, your account, your wizard, your stats, they usually end up coming out really, really good. Alright? The bragger is going to be the guy who goes for the best gear in the game, so he can say, hey, I have the best gear in the game. The bragger is going to be the guy who goes for the hardest gear to obtain in the game, so he can say that, hey, I obtained that. That's mine now. You know, they usually tend to have very, very impressive wizards. And they spend a lot of time on their pets, too, because that's an accomplishment. If you have an insanely good pet, that's something you can brag about to your friends, and then, you know, when people want to hatch with their pets, that makes them feel even better because that makes them feel appreciated. The ego is the main focus with the bragger. With the collector, just a normal collector, maybe one that's just beginning, or maybe one that's slightly more modest just by nature, they don't feel the need to brag about everything, but oftentimes, no matter how modest someone is, the collector, I'd say 8 times out of 10, will end up turning into the bragger. It just happens. I've slightly made that switch. I don't feel the need to brag about everything I own, but I do want some of my friends to, you know about my collections. I do show my collections off to people. I just don't feel the need to tell everyone I meet about my collection. Although making a video on YouTube, you know, that's okay. But if you meet a stranger in the game, you don't need to tell them about everything you've ever done in your account. Alright? But that's what the bragger will do. The next one is going to be the Pet Master. Now, the Pet Master, this is branching off a bit from the Collector and the Bragger, except this is not focused on collecting pets. Pet Masters usually get rid of their bad pets. If they have a failed pet, they don't keep it. They get rid of it because they don't need it. They have no purpose. They have no reason to continue owning that pet. The Pet Master will get rid of pets they have no intention of training. They'll get rid of pets that failed, and they will keep the very, very, very best pets that they own. But the second that a really good pet becomes obsolete in the face of another really good pet, they'll get rid of that other pet. They'll get rid of the obsolete option because they have no reason to own it. Like I said, they have no reason to keep it. They're not the same as collectors. They don't feel the need to own a lot of pets. They feel the need to have really good pets and to keep the ones that they might need. Alright, it's actually more about survival or being able to, I guess, play the game, you know, play Wizard101, go into battles, and have a really good pet to back them up in the process. So it's not really focused on what they can show off so much as how the pet can help them. Alright. The next one's gonna be Mr. or Mrs. Helpful. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful, these are the guys, and you don't meet them very often. You won't run into these that much these days, especially with the box outside the bazaar, the team-up box. Most of the people, most of the Mr. and Mrs. Helpfuls, you'll find roaming the spiral. The people who hang outside the box, alright, are usually, I'm not going to make a general statement here, but they are usually people who are either 1, bored, or 2, they want to get the badges. Alright, so they're usually either the collectors, the braggers, or just any random wizard that doesn't have anything to do because maybe they've completed all the tasks that they gave themselves for the day, but they don't really have anything outside of the game to do either, so they focus on just helping other wizards. But the Mr. or Mrs. Helpful, they actually want to help you. They want to go out of their way, whether they're bored or not, and they want to help you because they usually are pretty well settled in their own wizard. They've usually already got all the decent gear. They've usually got a decent pet, but they don't, here's the thing, they don't spend too much time focusing on that because they just get what they need and then they go and they focus on helping other wizards complete their quests or do battles or farm because one, it makes them feel good, and yeah, it does kind of pass the time between updates, but boredom isn't the main reason behind it. They are just generally good people. Here's the thing, though. This is the con behind it. They get taken advantage of a lot. So the Mr. or Mrs. Helpful, they'll end up running into a lot of people in the game who they're they're looking for help, but they're not looking for someone who wants to help. Usually, selfish people like other selfish people. So someone who's wanting to take advantage of them, they'll find that person and they'll use them for their own self gain, their own self interest. But, after that, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful is completely worthless to them. A lot of the times, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful will add the person or will become friends with the person that they're helping because, well, they form some kind of connection with them. These are people with a lot of empathy and just an actual desire to help people and an actual desire to be friendly to people. So, they'll end up adding the person that they're helping, especially if they've been helping them for a really long time. Like if they were helping maybe someone they found questing through the spiral and they decided to help them all the way from Mushu to Chrysalis or Polaris or Mirage or Imperia, that's a long time. All right. Well, that's a lot of quests, it's a lot of work, a lot of effort involved there, and you've still got Darkmoor and stuff that Mr. or Mrs. Helpful is very likely to help that person farm through, because that's just the kind of person that they are. Also, if a wizard is looking for reagents, or maybe they're looking for really good treasure cards, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful, they're usually not collectors, they're usually not braggers. They can be collectors, but because collectors usually end up becoming braggers, Mr. or Mrs. Helpful, they're usually the more modest collectors, the ones that I mentioned earlier that usually don't end up feeling the need to tell people about their collection. That's these guys. And they will happily help you out with treasure cards or, reagents the best that they can. Alright, if they're not collectors, they'll go out of their way to try and find someone or provide you with options as to how you can obtain what you need to obtain. A lot of times that usually involves pointing you towards certain fan sites like Wizard101 Central or Duelist101 because these communities are full of people who are willing to help and who can help. Alright, so there's that. The next one that I'm going to bring up is the noob. Now you'll commonly find this one on just about any video of this kind. And that's not just for Wizard101. This is a personality, this is a stereotype that you find in just about any game. The noob is the player who really doesn't know what they're doing. Alright, and that's not necessarily a bad thing when you're just starting a game. There's no expectation that you're going to know exactly what to do immediately. Alright, that would be a completely ridiculous expectation, although there are some particular people in the spiral that I'm probably going to mention in the second video. I should have mentioned this is going to be a three-part video, or a three-part series, but there's specific people that aren't too nice to, new players. Anyways, the noob is the person that is going to join. They're going to join your battle. They probably won't ask your permission to join the battle, because they don't know the different things, the different, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't know the etiquette. There's a certain etiquette even in a game like Wizard101 where, you have to use your manners. And they don't know what mannerisms they need to be using because it's a new game for them. Each game has their own etiquette, and Wizard101 is not immune from this, particularly in the field of PvE. PvP is kind of a minefield when it comes to etiquette. There's not really much etiquette there. Alright, generally, people kind of ignore any kind of mannerisms or they ignore any kind of etiquette, but people who do follow the kind of old-fashioned etiquette in PvP are the people that you'll see actually say good game even if they lost. Alright, that's etiquette. Or maybe they take a bow with their menu chat options. That's etiquette, that kind of thing in a PvP match. Just things that you do to show that you respect the other player, and that you don't feel like looking like a jerk. Alright, but the noob does not understand these. That he's not a jerk. He or she is not a jerk. They're not trying to be mean. They just generally don't know the rules yet, and they generally don't know the etiquette, so they end up looking like they're trying to mess everything up for you. You know, they end up looking like a troll. When in reality, maybe they are, but at the same time, you also have to consider maybe they are actually a new player. And they're usually not just new in the field of etiquette, they don't really know what they're doing in battles. Alright, if you add them as a friend, they'll likely need a lot of help. These are the people that will spam your messages asking you for help. Alright, people who spam your messages asking for crowns are usually trolls. They're not necessarily noobs. Okay, because noobs, they, like I said, they don't understand the etiquette. A troll doesn't. A troll understands the etiquette, but they don't care. They're ignoring it. The noob and the troll are kind of direct opposites of each other. The troll's the evil noob. It's the one that understands everything because maybe they had a previous, account that got banned, or they have a reason to be mad at the world around them, I guess. And they don't really have any interest in playing the game per se. They don't have any interest in becoming a really high level. Alright, so I kind of switched from the noob to the troll there because they're really, really close together as far as ignoring etiquette, except the troll does it on purpose and the noob just doesn't know. And they do need it explained to them, so if you can, be nice to them. Alright, don't be a jerk. Okay, if they ask for help, maybe explain to them that you can't be on call 24/7, but at the same time, maybe occasionally help them if you can, especially if it's with a dungeon that maybe you had trouble getting through when you were just starting the game. You just kind of have to think about other people sometimes. Now, we're going to go from the noob to the troll to what I call the high-level troll. Now, this guy is an absolute jerk. This guy, he started out the game probably a pretty nice dude, but he likely came from other video gaming communities that aren't so people friendly as far as respect and treating other players the way that you'd want to be treated. This guy did not come from a game or a video game community that works like that. Okay. And yes, I am looking at generally the first-person shooter communities because, while there are decent people there, I can't say everyone there sucks. There are some people there as well that aren't exactly family-friendly. Anyways, this is the guy that if you're a low level and you're in a PvP match, or maybe you went in the practice PvP, right? Maybe you're doing a 1 versus 1 in practice. This is the high level that's going to go and join your battle, and they're going to wreck you in one shot. They're going to, put Colossal or Epic on a Thunder Snake, and they're going to kill you with it in one hit and deal like 2,000 damage because you're a low level and they want to rub it in your face that they're in higher level. At the same time, the high level troll is also the guy that if you're questing and you need help and maybe he passes by you and you ask him, he's going to be very, very rude about it. He's not just going to ignore you. He's not just going to decline and say, I'm sorry, but I can't, or I don't have time, or I am kind of busy right now. Instead of saying that, he is going to blow you off in the rudest way possible. I'm not going to give any examples, but I'm sure that you guys can use your imaginations and figure out the kind of things that this guy would say. This isn't the jerk that I'm going to bring up in the next video, because the jerk I'm going to bring up in the next video is much, much, much worse. Alright, so moving on, obviously you've got the noob, the troll, and the high-level troll. They all have their particular situations. Next up, you've got the PvP Overlord. This is the guy whose PvP rank is so high. He's got all the badges on all of his wizards through all of, all the different PvP ages, maybe excluding, first age, maybe excluding second age, but any age after that, at least, he is going to be like a ninja in PvP. He's gonna have a lot of arena tickets. He spends almost all of his time in the arena. He or she, I'm just, a general statement, I guess. Um, that's what he does. He knows PvP. He understands the arena. Sometimes they're jerks, sometimes they're not. It just kind of depends on who you run into. Um, on one side, if a PvP overlord loses a match, if they're a jerk, they're going to be the guy that complains and whines and cries about it. Alright? If they're a PvP overlord, maybe they have a decent sense of respect, they understand the etiquette of the game, they're going to be the guys who take that bow. They're going to say, good game, Or maybe if they win and the other guy loses, maybe they're going to offer help. Or maybe they'll offer some tips. Or maybe they'll say, hey, you didn't do all that bad. Alright? These are guys who understand the arena, and they tend to understand all the different sub-personalities within the arena, because each aspect of the game in itself has these sub-personalities. I'm just going to be focusing on a few today, but I will expand more on it, in future videos. So that's the PvP Overlord. The next one is, and this is a pretty long name, the Initiate to Transcendent PvP Superiority Complex. Okay, so Initiate, Adept, Transcendent, Legendary, these are different ranks you get every 10 levels that you level up in the game. Okay, this Superiority Complex, this is the person who they complain about any PvP strategy that is commonly seen from Azteca and beyond. The second that those rank 10 spells hit the arena with, Storm Owl freaking knocking people out in one hit, with Glowbug Squall or Abominable Snowman, they hate Shadow Magic. If it's in the arena, they hate Shadow Magic. It absolutely disgusts these guys, because to them it is overpowered and it completely ruins the spirit of PvP. Now, whether they are right or not is irrelevant in this case, because I'm just pointing out that this complex does exist. Whether or not it does make the game unfair, I am not going to touch on that. I'm just telling you what these guys tend to think. Alright, they might be right, they might be wrong, maybe they're right under certain circumstances, and maybe they're wrong under others. A lot of the times, you'll find these guys spending their time in the arena as level 10 wizards, level 20 wizards, or maybe they'll be level 50s, 60s, and 70s. These are the level 50s that you commonly find taking down level 90s. Alright, because these guys are usually, these guys understand the arena just as much as the PvP Overlord, and they understand it so much that parts of it bug them. They actually emotionally get to these people. It's like claws digging at them. It's an emotional reaction. Alright, it actually affects them in real life. It actually bugs them that much. And when I say superiority complex, I mean that these are the guys that bring it up every single conversation. Almost any time PvP is brought up, they'll talk about how the old metas were so much better than the new ones. Again, whether they're right or not, that's subjective, and I'm not touching on that. I'm not going to provide my opinion on that matter, but someone who complains about, the new metas, just on occasion, they can't really fit into this category, because just bringing it up passively is not the same as making it and a completely well thought out argument, creating a completely well thought out argument, and spending a lot of time on the game with your friends, on fan sites, making YouTube videos about how overpowered and how ridiculous the new metas are. Passive versus super aggressive. That's how you can tell the difference. If someone is passive about it, they don't fit into this category. If they just kind of bring it up occasionally. Alright. They usually don't, if they're passive, they usually don't feel the need to argue about it. They'll just say it. If someone tries to start a debate about it, they'll usually shut it down, because they have their opinions. That's okay. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and they don't feel like discussing it because they don't feel that need to kind of shove it down the throat. The next one is going to be the just-in-case player. Now this is type 1. There's two types of just-in-case players. This one is very similar to collectors, except they only collect the things that they actually think that they intend on using. So when I say that, I mean that these guys, they usually have a lot of reagents. They usually have a lot of pet snacks, and they justify this kind of hoarding or collecting as for the greater good of their account, for the greater good of their wizard. They justify it by saying, hey, maybe I need 999 amber dust. Hey, maybe I need 565 amber. Hey, maybe I need all of these rank 9 snacks. Hey, maybe I do need all of these mega snacks that I just got from that Winterbane gauntlet or whatever. You know, they justify it by, you know, saying that maybe they'll need it. But here's the thing. They almost never do. They almost never use their collections. While as a collector, a normal collector will usually admit up front that they have no intention of ever using this stuff. They're just collecting it because they're collectors. They want to have that personal achievement, and they're usually the first ones to admit that that's the reason they do it, not because they need these things. Someone who fits under this category, the just in case category, they think they need this stuff, when in reality they really have no use for it. Alright, a lot of the things that they focus on the game aren't even close to being in the category of what you might need 999 amber for or 500 stone blocks. They usually don't focus on those things. They have them just in case because they think that maybe in the future something will come up that will suddenly make them change into a completely different person, and they'll go from someone who almost never crafts or maybe who doesn't spend very much time in the pet pavilion at all, and suddenly they'll have to spend hours and hours of their time doing these things. Usually that's not the case. The next one is just in case player type 2, and this is usually in PvE. These guys are the guys who will load their spell deck up with some of the most useless spells. Alright? And if they're not useless spells, they're just spells that don't pertain to the battle at all. These guys will put so many tower shields and so many fortifies and so much stuff that they don't need. They will put they will fill every spell slot in their deck, even if they don't need to. When they go into, you know, PvE mob battles, maybe they're just fighting some Mirage Street mobs, right? They're gonna load, if they plan on going in there, you know, solo, they are going to load their deck up all the way, when in reality all they need is some blades and AoE, or a couple of AoE hits, enchants, and maybe sharpened blade and a bubble. Alright? They don't need multiple choices for AoE, but these guys will load up like 2 or 3 or 4 different options, and they will fill each slot up. Alright, so if your deck has a maximum of 7 Stormlords, they will fill all 7. They won't just do 5, they won't just do 2. 2 is probably more likely what you need, and then maybe like a Tempest if the mob has a lot of health. 9 times out of 10, that's not the case, unless you're in Darkmoor fighting those, the Heck Hounds, or the Hell Hounds, or whatever. Anyways, so that's them. Usually, they don't tend to make very good decisions when it comes to strategizing in a battle, because they can't. Their deck is loaded up with so much useless junk that they can almost never find the things in their deck that they actually need on time. Whether they know how to use those spells effectively doesn't matter. They can't find the spells to use to begin with. The next one is going to be the Fisherman. Now the Fisherman is this guy has a lot of focus. He spends a lot of time at fishing holes all over the spiral, and he has more reasons for fishing than just collecting. This guy actually enjoys fishing. He doesn't fish because he wants to collect the fish. That's just kind of an added bonus. He doesn't fish to fill up his fishing tome. Again, that's just an added bonus. He doesn't fish to get fishing chests, to get things from the fishing chests. that is just an added bonus. This guy actually enjoys fishing in his spare time because it's relaxing to him, or maybe it's just fun. Maybe he actually does find the idea of, watching that fish come out of the water and come ever so slightly closer to his wizard. Maybe he finds that feeling that he gets. Maybe it's like an accomplishment to him. But the biggest reason that he does fishing is because he actually enjoys it. Everything else is they're just added bonuses. They're just things that come along with it. He's there more for the experience than the actual physical obtainables themselves. So there's that. The next one is going to be Mr. Monstrology. Now, this guy is a very rare wizard because not many people actually have kind of grabbed on to the whole monstrology thing, so you won't find these guys very often. They're not very common, but they spend a lot of time on monstrology. They have all the monstrology spells. I have all the monstrology spells, a lot of people do, but they have all of them, and they load their castles up with these monstrology creatures. Or maybe, these are the guys that you'll find creating all of the expels or maybe the summons, and they have a lot of monstrodomes, and they love loading their monstrodomes up with some of the most difficult monstrology creatures out there. They like to decorate their castles with, all the different dragons from Avalon. They like to decorate their castles with all the different ninja pigs from Mushu, that kind of a thing. These guys, while they do like monstrology, usually people who get into monstrology to begin with are there for the perks, and that's no different with Mr. Monstrology. He's there for the perks. He actually likes the rewards that you can get from monstrology. Maybe he has kind of a collector's complex, while at the same time, not so much. It's like a weird mixture of the just in case type 1 and the actual collector himself. He's got multiple reasons for doing monstrology, but they're actually not for the experience. So there's that. Most likely that guy also wishes that there were easier ways to go about attaining them, but because there's not, he has to go through the actual, monstrology process to obtain what he wants. And I guess a pro there is that he's very driven. Whether he enjoys doing monstrology or not, the effort and the focus involved in monstrology point to someone who is driven and who is actually, they're goal-based. They want what they want and they're willing to do what they need to do to get it. The next one is going to be the grinder. Now, we all know a grinder. I am almost certain that we all know a grinder. This guy will go, if he needs something, and he always needs something, and it's always from the hardest bosses or the hardest dungeons in the game, he is emotionally, physically, and I guess I'm mentally able to spend hours upon hours, or days, weeks, months, straight, trying to do what he needs to do to get what he needs to get. This guy is very driven. And he's driven in more than just battling. A grinder will, they'll grind with fishing, they'll grind with farming, they'll grind with monstrology. It doesn't matter to the grinder. The grinder is someone who knows what they want and they know how to obtain it. And they are slightly obsessive. They're not usually, they don't usually farm for collections. They farm for things that they want, things that are cool. Alright, Darkmoor gear at one point was considered cool, and I think it kind of still is. But it takes a long time to obtain compared to a lot of the previous dungeons in the game. So the grinder would be willing to spend the months upon months that it takes to get all the different things in the game that they want. So they'll probably want the Darkmoor gear, they'll want the boots from the rat, all of the really, really cool, really, really good stuff. A lot of the times, while they aren't collectors, they like to own things that are storyline based. So things like the Sky Iron Asta, those things are absolutely amazing to the grinder, because the grinder not only has that kind of, that drive, alright, they also usually tend to admire the storyline, because the grinder has a lot of patience, and because of this, they don't rush through the storylines. The grinder, oftentimes, they will take their time through the game, and they're very patient about it. They understand the storyline pretty well, okay? And when they reach those dungeons that they need to farm through, they'll read the storyline at least once, just so they can, understand it, so they can know what's going on. And then after that, it's all over. They're gonna run that boss into the ground so many times, it's not even funny. That is the grinder. Okay, moving on. There are obviously, the grinder is kind of a scale. I'm gonna go ahead and point that out. Some people, we all have to farm for things, and all of us are kind of on a scale of, how grindery we are, I guess. But the grinder is at the very, very top. The next one's Mr. Focus. Now, this is slightly different from the different tasks in the game that require a lot of focus. Mr. Focus, when he goes into battles, he doesn't talk. This is the guy that doesn't say a flippin' word, alright? He will sit there in complete and utter silence as three other, members of the kind of questing or farming group or whatever the situation is, they can all be talking, and Mr. Focus won't say a word. This guy usually tends to be really, really good at whatever he's focusing on because he's so laser focused on it that it would be almost impossible for him to mess up, to make a mistake. And if he did, here's the thing about Mr. Focus, he usually does blame it on the other players. The pro is that he has that focus, he's usually really good, but on the very off chance that he makes a mistake, he will blame it on the other players because he knows, he thinks, he believes that he is so good at the game and that him focusing so hard on what he's doing makes him so much better than everyone else that it obviously has to be one of his teammates that messed up. Alright, there's the pros and there's the cons. The next one is going to be House MD. Now, I don't know if any of you have watched this show, but it's like a medical drama, alright, from, 2008, and it is one of the best out there. I freaking love it. I'm not sure if it was 2008 or 2000, or if that's when it ended. I'm not sure, but the point being, how does that pertain to this game? House MD, in this case, isn't a reference to Life Wizards. Okay? House MD is a reference to castle builders. This is a player who spends all of their time designing castles and designing houses and obtaining the rarest of the rare when it comes to, well, castle building. They love castle magic. They love glitching. They're usually okay at castle magic, castle glitching, and and using castle blocks to build decent castles. They're usually okay with those skill-wise, but they're not perfect. They're not as good as the actual glitch master or as some of the other people that I'm going to bring up in videos in the future. They're not as good at them because they focus on all aspects of it instead of taking their time to focus on one really, really big one. They might take their time to become a jack of all trades within the housing or castle community. They'll learn castle magic, they'll become really good at monstrology to get all the characters they need. Maybe they even buy packs, maybe they buy gauntlets. They buy packs to get different housing items or to get those little NPC characters that you can stick around, that kind of a thing. They don't mind spending money on the game to get the housing items they want. They have a lot of teleporters, they love crafting. These guys are usually jacks of all trades, but for a different reason. They don't focus on all the different things in the game because they want to. They do it all so that they can have some of the best castles, so that they can decorate their castles in the way that they want to decorate their castles. It all has to do with their castles. It's always the castle, always the house, always the dorm room, the Arcanum apartment, the little different Mirage faction, hideouts. It's always about those. Alright. The next one is going to be the actual jack of all trades. Now, the actual jack of all trades is good at the game, good at everything in the game because he wants to be good at everything in the game and because he's smart enough to be good at everything in the game and he has patience. He has that kind of focus. He has the ability to do just about anything in this game, except here's the thing, because he is that good at everything, he's not as good as some of the quote-unquote masters of everything. So you could have someone who would be, you know, a pet master. They're really good at creating some of the best pets, right? A jack of all trades can create some good pets, but they usually, one, they don't create a lot of good pets. They create some so they can say, hey, I am good at, you know, pet hatching, I am good at making pets, but maybe I'm not a complete master at it, alright? The jack of all trades does tend to have a slight bragger's complex. They do like to brag. But they brag about how good they are at everything in the game. The only thing is, when it comes to them, they don't feel the need to bring it up all the time, because a lot of the times they're too focused on their own tasks, on their own interests, to talk to any of their friends. Alright, the jack of all trades will almost never message you first. They'll never send you a private message first. If you're in a battle with the jack of all trades, you'll usually be the one to start the conversation because they're focused on what they want to do. And that's usually not talk to you, that's usually be good at the game. So that means farming, that means questing, monstrology, that kind of a thing. But the reason for it is just so that they can be good at everything. And it's more of a subconscious reason too than an actual conscious decision that they've made. Usually these people, they don't notice. Alright, their ego is hidden to them, but it usually tends to be visible to everyone else. It's not a really, really shiny ego. It's not something that follows them around everywhere, but when it does, it is easily noticeable, but they can't see it. They won't admit to it because they don't know it's there. The next one is going to be the rank 9. Now, I actually mentioned something about this a little while ago, but the rank 9 is the guy or the girl who has a whole bunch of rank 9 snacks. They have drawers and piles and gardens. They have factories pumping out their rank 9 snacks like crazy. They have couch potato factories. They have, I don't think the evil magma pea drops any rank 9 snacks, but if it did, they'd have those planted everywhere. When they were a lower level and they wanted rank 9 snacks, but maybe they didn't have any couch potatoes, they were the guys who went to Waterworks and they would farm it like crazy for the rank 9 snacks because they wanted those rank 9 snacks. Rank 9 freaking snacks. Alright guys, rank 9 snacks. It's all about the rank 9 snacks with these guys, okay? They have a lot of them. They do use them on occasion. They don't have a collector's complex or anything of that sort, but they do use their rank 9 snacks for, you know, one pet at a time. Usually they'll train one pet maybe every month so they don't completely erase their entire stockpile as if their stockpile was going to run out anytime soon, because again, they have so many of these snacks. That's not likely. The next one is going to be Crafty, Tappy, and Happy. This is the guy who takes on all the different crafting challenges. There is currently a something called the chain, like the chain reel or something of that sort. It's a recipe in Imperia. Now it's actually harder, way harder. It is like 50 times more difficult than the actual quest from to get one of the crafting badges. There's a quest to get a crafting badge that doesn't actually count as a crafting badge, but you can get it nonetheless. I think it goes here. You get Visionary Crafter, and then I can't remember what it's called, but it's like one step above that. It's not required. It doesn't block you from moving on with your, I guess, crafting quests in the future. It requires arena tickets, so you actually do have to go and do PvP to go about obtaining this badge. However, the chain reel is so much more difficult to acquire than the wand that you have to craft to obtain that badge. Now, Crafty, Tappy, and Happy would have no problem spending their time getting the chain reel. And let me go ahead and show you, or let me show you this chain reel recipe that I'm talking about. It's actually quite insane, and I'm gonna make another video about why it's so insane. Alright, so here we go. We're gonna go up to this spiral door. Hello there. We're gonna go to Imperia. Now the next video that I make about this is gonna involve some math, so you guys yeah. I know this isn't going to be, it's not going to be the part 2 for the personalities. It's going to be different. So we go over here to Mr. Laligo, right? Say hello. Hello, Mr. Laligo. What's up? We go, I believe it is, here, it's a chain reel. This requires 50 platinum, 50 flying squid ink, 100 aether, or copper, 120 copper, 120 nickel, 200 mistwood, and 25 flawless onyx. Now in the next video, I will help you understand why 50 platinum is absolutely insane if you don't own the Clockwork Tower Gauntlet. Anyways, the next thing, and when I say absolutely insane, that's not an understatement. Not at all. Alright, I was scrolling through the Central Forums last night, and I saw, I don't have an account there or anything, but I saw a post by one of their members, and it had some pretty crazy numbers on it. Anyways, so that's that's the chain reel, guys, and Crafty, Happy, and Tappy, Crafty, Tappy, and Happy, whatever, they'd have no problem crafting that because they like to craft. They enjoy it. They have laser focus, and they love that stuff. The next one is going to be, this is also the last one, this is the merchant. This guy sells everything. Anything he gets, he sells it, as long as he doesn't need it. The only thing this guy thinks he needs is mounts, maybe a few pets, one really good wand, maybe anything he gets from bundles, like bundle castles, or bundle castles, bundle mounts, bundle wands. He doesn't sell those because he spent 40 bucks on that, so he doesn't want to sell that. So he's going to keep that. But if he gets any gear from anywhere in the spiral that he doesn't need at that moment, he's going to sell it. Any jewels that he doesn't need, he's going to sell them. If he has a storm wizard that's level 120, and maybe he's farming and he gets a piercing jewel that provides you with 6% armor piercing for a death wizard, instead of thinking ahead and maybe saying, okay, well, maybe I'll make a death wizard in the future and I'll level them up, and then I can put this jewel on my death wizard instead of having to go back and re-farm them all the way through to get this death jewel again. Maybe I'll just sell this. I'm going to get rid of this. He'll get rid of all of the jewels he's not currently using. Not just ones he doesn't think not just the ones he doesn't think he'll need. Alright, he'll get rid of anything he's not using at that moment. He'll sell all of his treasure cards. He'll sell all of his reagents. He'll sell all of his pet snacks except for the ones that he doesn't want to get rid of. Usually, those mean the rank 9 snacks. He probably won't sell those. He's not a complete moron. He just thinks he doesn't need a lot of stuff. The only thing is, this usually ends up backfiring on him because when the time comes that he does need these things, he doesn't have any of them because he's done nothing but get rid of them the whole time. A pro to this is he usually doesn't have a very full backpack. His treasure card inventory is usually not very full. His reagent inventory is not very full. I mean, generally he has a lot more space. And he's not likely to be the kind of person that would ever need to follow my increased storage strategy that I made in a previous video. You guys want to find out how to have practically infinite storage, almost. I'm saying practically because as far as the amount of items you'll ever actually obtain in this game, you can have much more storage than that. But you likely never will need that. Even if you're a collector, there's just not enough stuff in the game to fill all that up. But this guy has no need for those. He doesn't spend that much time or effort on getting things that he might want, because the only things he wants are the things he's using at that specific moment. A lot of the times, he'll do PvP. He spends his time, farming for things that he thinks he needs. So, better gear. The second he gets that better gear, he's going to sell the previous stuff that he had before. Alright? So, that's that kind of guy. They sell everything. That's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more amazing content. This is part 1 of a part 3 series, so be sure to stay tuned for that as well. The next 2 videos will not be anywhere near as long because they don't have as many personalities involved. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.